All right, so if you've ever touched data, chances are you've spent a ton of time inside a Jupyter Notebook. It's just one of those essential tools, right? But here's the thing. There's a next-generation version of it, and it's a total game changer for pretty much everyone, from scientists to developers. We're going to dive into JupyterLab and see just how it's shaking up the world of interactive computing.
And look, if you want to understand just how important this whole ecosystem is, you really don't need to look any further than this quote right here. We are talking about a tool that is so powerful, so transparent, that it was literally used to publish the findings on the first observation of gravitational waves. I mean, that's one of the biggest scientific discoveries of our lifetime. So yeah, this is not just a coding tool. It's a genuine platform for discovery.
Okay, so what is JupyterLab, really? The best way to think about it is like a web-based command center for all your data science work. And if you're going to remember 3 words, make them these: flexible, integrated, and extensible. The whole point is to bring everything, your code, your data, your notes, all into one single, seamless workflow.
Right. It's not just a tool. It's really become the modern scientist's digital lab. I mean, it is the bedrock for so much work in data science, machine learning, you name it. So how on earth did we get here?
Well, to really get JupyterLab, you gotta go back, way back. See, the story doesn't even start with Jupyter. It starts with an older tool that was built to solve a very specific problem for scientists who are working with Python.
Okay, so this whole journey kicks off way back in 2001. A physicist, Fernando Perez, creates something called IPython, basically because he just needed a better way to do his research. Simple as that. Then you fast forward a decade to 2011, and we get the very first browser-based notebook. This was a huge deal. All of a sudden, you could mix code, text, and your results all in one place. By 2014, the project's vision grew way beyond just Python, and that's when Project Jupyter was officially born. And then finally, in 2018, JupyterLab 1.0 drops, completely rethinking the entire user experience from the ground up.
And here's a cool little detail. The name Jupyter actually tells you everything you need to know about its mission. It's this clever mashup of the 3 core languages it was built to support: Julia, Python, and R. See what they did there? That name just perfectly nails the project's whole philosophy of being language-agnostic.
And the adoption rate? Absolutely staggering. By 2021, there were something like 10 million public Jupyter notebooks just on GitHub. Think about that. This wasn't some niche tool for academics anymore. It had become the undisputed de facto standard for data science pretty much everywhere. So, okay, that's the history lesson. But what is it that actually makes JupyterLab such a huge upgrade from the classic notebook that, let's be honest, we all know and love? Well, it all comes down to the workspace.
The philosophy is totally different. See, the classic notebook was all about the document. Think of it like a single notepad on your desk. If you needed to open a terminal or look at a different script, you had to grab a whole new notepad or, open a new browser tab. It gets messy fast. JupyterLab, on the other hand, is your entire desk. Your notebook, your scripts, your data viewers, your terminal, they can all be laid out side by side in one single unified space.
And this table really lays out those practical upgrades. Instead of constantly juggling separate tabs for your file browser and your terminal, JupyterLab just pulls them right into the main view as these handy sidebar panels. That means way less time jumping between windows and more time actually focusing on your work. Plus, it introduces a much more modern and powerful system for extensions, and, this is a big one, it includes a built-in visual debugger. That's something developers have been asking for years.
Now, the new user interface is obviously a massive upgrade. But it's important to remember that it's all built on top of the same core concept that made notebooks so revolutionary to begin with: the power of the cell.
Yeah, this whole cell-based workflow, it's the secret sauce. First off, it creates this incredibly tight feedback loop. You write a tiny bit of code, you hit run, and boom, the output is right there, instantly. Second, the kernel is stateful, which is a fancy way of saying it remembers things. You can load a massive dataset in one cell and it just hangs out in memory, ready for you to work with in all the other cells. And finally, you have this amazing freedom to run cells in any order you want, which is absolutely perfect for that kind of messy, nonlinear process of just exploring and trying things out. But, and this is a big but, that incredible freedom is a double-edged sword. It can also be a trap. If you're running cells all out of order, you can create this tangled mess of hidden states that becomes impossible for someone else, or let's be real, even you 6 months from now, to reproduce. And that's why the golden rule of notebooks has always been, every once in a while, restart your kernel and run everything from top to bottom. It's the only way to make sure your work actually tells a clean, reproducible story. Okay, so with all this power, where does JupyterLab actually fit into the bigger picture? How does it stack up against the big traditional IDEs like VS Code or PyCharm?
It really boils down to this fundamental difference in philosophy. JupyterLab is a notebook-first environment. It's built from the ground up for exploration, for prototyping, for telling stories with data. Traditional IDEs, they're script-first. They're built for the structured, rigorous world of software engineering. So it's not about which one's better. It's always about picking the right tool for the job you're doing right now. And this table really makes those trade-offs super clear. If you're doing exploratory data analysis on a new data set, JupyterLab is an absolute beast. It's king. But if you need to do something like refactor a function name that's being used in 20 different files across a massive project, yeah, you're going to want a traditional IDE for that. They're just built to handle that kind of complexity.
But that gap between the two worlds, it's definitely closing. And the main reason for that comes down to one of JupyterLab's most important design principles: extensibility.
See, from day one, JupyterLab wasn't built to be this single monolithic application. It was designed as a flexible platform of modular plugins. The best analogy is a big box of Legos. It gives you all the core pieces, and then you get to snap them together to build the exact kind of environment you need for your specific workflow.
And this is where extensions come in and give JupyterLab its superpowers. The debugger, for instance, lets you set breakpoints and step to your code line by line, just like in a real IDE. The Git extension takes the headache out of version control, which has always been a bit of a sore spot for notebooks. And something like the variable inspector is amazing. It lets you see exactly what's living in your computer's memory without having to litter your code with print statements. These are not just nice little add-ons. They fundamentally transform JupyterLab into a seriously powerful development environment.
So all of this, it leads to a really fascinating question, doesn't it? On one hand, you have notebooks like JupyterLab getting more and more powerful IDE-like features. And on the other hand, you have IDEs like VS Code fully embracing the notebook experience. As these two worlds keep converging, the lines just get blurrier and blurrier. It really makes you wonder, what does the future of development even look like when the best of both of these worlds finally become one?